All right, welcome back to another exciting adventure right here on Radio Wasteland, the best in paranormal talk radio. Our guest tonight is Kenny Biddle. Now, Kenny, just to talk a little bit about you, you are a skeptic, and that's kind of the angle that Kara and I come from. We got a lot of wacky concepts on, and the real
very
good
few
ones.
Skeptic guests on. We mostly talk to people who are hardcore into whatever it is, and we tend to be the skeptical ones. So this is like uncharted territory.
This is a little change for you then.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, we're actually going to probably agree a lot tonight.
Yeah, we're just going to
I'm
commiserate about the paranormal community. This is just going to be an hour-long bitch session about it.
I'm used to it.
That's not true. But
both of us came into this loving this stuff, but being skeptical, and while we are both skeptical, that's not really the premise of what we do. What made you say, hey, I'm going to go at this from a skeptic angle? And obviously you had some long-term interest in it outside of that, or did you just find out about it and go, well, I'm going to go in there and tell these people they're dumb?
No.
We don't debunk anything, but it sounds like you do. So
right.
So first, I'll address that. Debunking, from my perspective, debunking is always just the result of an investigation. It's not my purpose. That's not what I actually go out and intend to do. Yeah. It's just the result of most of my investigations. But going back to the beginning, I started out as a ghost hunter. As you said, like I had a love for this. I've always had a love for this. I grew up with In Search Of and Unsolved Mysteries, those kind of shows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we used to sit cross-legged on the floor, waiting for 8 o'clock to come around so we could actually watch the show, long before you could just watch it whenever you wanted to.
And it seems like your love of this stuff went further back, because if I am not mistaken, that's a Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man, and that's the Mystery Machine. That's a ghost from Pac-Man.
Wow, look at you picking apart my background. Yes.
Yes. There's quite a bit of paranormal early before we knew what paranormal was. Paranormal love,
Yeah, Scooby-Doo is Scooby-Doo. I'm a big fan of the whole gang.
Awesome.
So
amazing.
They were the original ghost hunters, they solved the mysteries, and that's what I build my philosophy on, to solve the mysteries. But yes, I grew up with that, and once this new thing called the internet came along, I got online. My wife and I got married, and our gift to ourselves was a computer that could get on the internet, which was great. It had I think it had 8 megabytes of storage.
Right.
That's how far back we're going. But I looked up ghost hunting teams. I found one in my local area. I joined up and went out with them. We went to cemeteries and houses and all kinds of stuff. And I was full on into it. I thought everything we got was real, like these weird lights and pictures and video and the strange sounds. I thought it was all good until I really started looking at other teams and realizing that this stuff, this evidence in quotes, that is supposed to be so rare, everybody's freaking getting it. Everybody is. So something was wrong. Either we were doing something wrong, or it's not as rare as everyone says it is. So the more I looked into it, I actually leaned towards photography more, and got into studying photography, learning everything I could about it. Started really deconstructing photographs, figuring out how they were being done, and most of the time they were by mistake. It was just basic operator error. And the more I learned about that, the more I realized, okay, what other claims have I been following all of these years that I thought were real? What was I mistaken about? And the great thing, I think, for me, the gateway into skepticism was more or less turning the camera back onto myself and seeing what I was doing wrong. And because I always had that philosophy, and it's a common thing with ghost hunters, about science doesn't know everything, and science just hasn't caught up to it yet. And I wondered why. Like, what's the reason? Did they really catch up, or haven't they? What's the deal? And that's when I actually discovered Skeptical Inquirer magazine and the work of Benjamin Radford and Joe Nickell. Started reading their work and was like, holy crap, I was doing so much wrong, so much. And I slowly but surely did a 180 and turned my beliefs around. I actually turned them in and said, you know what? I'm not just going to have beliefs anymore. I'll have ideas. And for me, that's easier to change an idea with more evidence, better evidence, more information. So that's pretty much my backstory. And here I am today. I started a blog. I started a YouTube channel where I just started putting my own stuff out there, and it got recognized enough where Barry Carr, who is the director of Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, he reached out and offered me a column for Skeptical Inquirer. So I write a column online for them. I've done a couple conferences, the SciCon conferences out in Vegas. I've hosted workshops on solving mysteries and deconstructing photographs and video. I've done a lot of the skeptical and humanist groups around the tri-state area. I'm in Philadelphia, so Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, sometimes Delaware. Just teaching people how to go about solving mysteries, at least how I do it, because my way is not perfect. I don't always solve it, but I do pretty good.
This is probably something you run into a lot. I got stuck on something you said, which is that science doesn't know or hasn't caught up with it yet. And I think we all understood that at one point, but now in the present climate of this world, pandemic, the president, so on and so forth, everybody has this sort of love-hate thing going on with science. And, I would like to remind people, because you turning to photography is turning to a science.
Yes.
That while science may not know everything, they do know the things that they claim to know. They'll never know everything because there's always more, but they also, tend to be pretty strict when it comes to coming up with what science is going to be. And, so like you turn to photography to start to question your own things, which is a science in itself. Do you find that there's a lot of people going like, as you are investigating these things, sort of mocking your use of science to do this?
Mocking my use of science?
Well, in this day and age, a lot of people have this sort of, but science, but this,
your
own belief system. Like, are they discarding your methods ever?
Yes.
Because you're just putting your faith in another religion, as I ever.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
I understand it better. Yes.
Yeah.
So I do come across this a lot where if I start offering explanations for things, alternative explanations, which when you're talking about paranormal claims, when I say alternative explanations, usually mean logical ones, as opposed to faith-based or metaphysical ones. When I start dishing out these explanations, I'm usually met, not always. There are a lot more. I think many in the community, the paranormal community, are more on the fence now, but there are still a lot that are just diehard believers. And once I mention science or critical thinking or logic or reason, then it's they immediately have a bias. They don't want to listen to me anymore. It's no, your science doesn't know everything. You can't explain everything.
Right.
And my immediate response, as soon as I see that opening, is absolutely. People in science already know that. We're well ahead of you on that point. We know it. That's why we keep looking.
Right.
All right. That's why we keep exploring. That's why, like, if this is taking place, if this hypothetical situation is taking place at a paranormal event, that is why I'm here. Because if I didn't believe it, if I thought science knew everything, there'd be no reason for me to show up at a ghost hunt or a Bigfoot hunt or a UFO sighting. There's no reason. But I'm looking for what's going on. So if they want to deny science, it's up to them. They can do that. That's their right. But if you're going to preach something different, like metaphysical stuff or pseudoscience to the public or anyone that's listening, you damn well better be prepared, because I'm going to fight you on that.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to just stand there and be like, oh, well, this is your event or whatever. No, if you're telling people the wrong thing, and
a lot of the time,
credit,
I feel people lose that, because it's like selling me a religion. There's a lot of religions on the planet. I'm not going to buy them all, and and I have that problem too. Sorry, you were saying, to your credit.
Oh, to my credit, I usually if I'm going back and forth, if there's a confrontation on some kind of topic, I can usually back up what I say. I can either demonstrate it.
Science.
Yes, it is science. It's demonstratable.
It's the nice thing about science. Yeah.
Yes. As opposed to the metaphysical explanation where you cannot duplicate it.
Right.
So, when we lock horns, I'm going to win.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be overconfident or fool myself. This is what I do. This is what I put all my motivation into, and I understand it. And if I don't understand it, of course, I ask somebody that does. But I can show you evidence to back up what I say.
Well, I'm guessing there's not a lot of winning anyway, because debate and argument in itself is
you know what?
Is a science that they're probably not following those rules. Like, oh, you backed it up with more BS. Great, whatever.
It really depends, because I want to say, like, my gut reaction would be like, yes, I agree 100% with you, but
some rare people do argue in good faith.
Yes, and they're for me, if I'm debating somebody in a crowd, or like on a panel or something like that, and I get one person that comes up to me afterwards and says, "Hey, what you said sounded interesting. Can you tell me more?" And we can have a talk, just a discussion. Then I consider that a win. I really do, because that's one person that was on the fence that wasn't sure. And even I don't expect people to change their entire philosophy or belief system. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But if they have a ghost hunting gadget, or a famous picture that they always believed was true, and they're like, "Hey, you said something about this. Can you explain this more? Can you show me how it's done?" And I do. Now they go away with better information, and it will improve how they go about things down the road. So I'm happy.
How does this work? Because it sounds like you're not selling debunking or tearing these things apart. It sounds like what you're selling is, hey, take this critical thinking with you when you go do this stuff.
Yes.
So
exactly right.
So how do you show up to these things? I mean, I would, well, yeah, well, magic portal, obviously.
Yeah.
No, so do they invite you? And when they invite you, are you like invited as the foil?
Yeah.
Really?
Believe it or not,
they're
yes.
just all okay.
I
what
get
it sounds like.
I do get invited to several. There's a couple events that are coming up that I was invited to. And they are paranormal events. And the reason that I get invited, and this is what I think, is because I'm not a jerk about it. If someone, let me rephrase that. I'm usually not a jerk about it. There are extreme cases when I am, and I think it's called for, but most of the time I try to talk to somebody. Instead of saying you're wrong, I try to say something like, well, have you ever considered this? Let's go with this idea. Let's talk about this. Or I ask them, what else do you think might cause this? Let's not talk about ghosts, but what other thing might cause this weird activity to going on? What do you think? And let's talk about it.
So you're diplomatic about it.
Yeah, for the most part, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that approach is good, because if I'm always confrontational, then I am that stereotypical skeptic that they think I am.
Right.
And it's not going to, you invoke the backfire effect in them, where they just stand their ground. If you come off aggressive, if you come off as angry, or I know everything and you don't, and I'm going to school you, they're not going to listen to me. And they're just going to go on doing what they're doing. And probably even worse is that they're going to tell other people how much of a jerk that I was.
Right.
And that's just going to spread. I'm lucky enough to have interacted with so many people in this community that they've actually come to my defense sometimes. which is really it's nice. It's nice to see. It's always funny. It's a fun joke. Like, oh my God, ghost hunters are defending a skeptic. What's up with that?
But I mean,
but I've done the same thing for
as
them.
long as nice conversations are happening. I mean,
Yes.
who cares what people do as long as they're nice?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the golden rule. Patrick Swayze said it best. Be nice. That's it.
In Roadhouse.
Yes.
Oh
there you go. That's the golden rule there.
Too.
Be nice until it's time not to be nice.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. So I've been holding off on this question in order to build dissonance and drama, because I'm sure that anybody listening to this is what they want to hear.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so you were a ghost hunter. You followed the ghost hunting.
I did.
You turned inwards. You started. Do you
Started
still
questioning,
believe in any of this stuff?
I do not.
You think that ghosts are not real?
That's my idea right now, that ghosts do not exist, that demons do not exist, that Bigfoot does not exist, that aliens have not visited us yet. I'm hoping one day in my lifetime that it happens, but
yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't think so, because so far the data that is available to us has not shown otherwise. It's not conclusive. It's not concrete. It has not shown a definite thing. Unfortunately, the vast majority, if not all, of the data presented by ghost hunters for an afterlife is completely invalid. And that's because of no controls, no method, no good methodology. They don't have professionals review the results, much less a third party. There is no peer review. So there's a lot of flaws with that. So yeah, the data that they present, unfortunately, is just completely invalid.
Can you give us some examples of, like, I imagine you have tons of examples of, like, sloppy methodology, or just some of the stuff you found with ghost hunting that sort of made you think, this method is bunk, you know?
For one, they use, one of the big thing is that they use a what's called a ghost box. And this is basically it's a broken radio. It's a modified radio. I call it a broken radio because that's what the first ones were.
It's a hear what you want to hear machine.
Yes. Yeah. When you turn on old school people, and I'm going to say, like Chauncey, I think old school people like us, we remember the dial radios, you know, in the car, you'd go back and try to tune in the station.
Transistors.
Yes. That's exactly what these ghost boxers are doing. They're just sweeping through the stations. You're getting terrestrial broadcasts. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It was designed to pick up radio signals. That's what it's doing.
It was designed to pick up radio signals and filter out all but the other ones. So those other ones are actually in there on some level.
Yes.
We're just attuning, the one in that we want, but those other ones are floating in the background,
And it's designed to bring us music and news and commercials about everything, and sports. And when you talk about commercials, you're talking about anything can be named. Names, places, furniture, events, dates, numbers, all kinds of stuff. So when you're listening to a radio sweeping through the channels and you ask the same question 5 times in a row, waiting for an answer that you want to hear, I guarantee you're going to hear it.
Oh, totally. Plus, I don't know what goes on the radio where you're from, but 30% of the radio stations around here are about Jesus, frankly.
Oh, wow.
So when you start filtering that in with everything you talk about, you got a baseball player, he's finally coming home, and you got these people talking about, and it's like you put all that together, scatter it together. I think you're left with a limited vocabulary that will definitely lend itself to,
right.
Some spooks,
When you start asking questions like, what's your name, or how did you die? And even that, that alone is an example. That's an example by itself, because it's asking questions to a radio station, and you can do the same thing by sitting in front of your television during the news. Ask all these EVP questions. What's your name? When did you die? What did you die of? Ask all them questions during the news, and I guarantee you're going to get answers that fit your questions. It's just, I guarantee it. Yeah. Besides that, though, one of the behaviors that I've seen is that the ghost hunters will ask a question such as, when did you die? Like they're asking when, like a date or a time or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they hear a word saying stairs, the conversation immediately changes. It didn't answer their question because that's not a date or a time. But the answer that they got was stairs. So now the questions changed to, oh, did you fall down the stairs? Right. Is that how you died? That's what I see with these conversations. They're one-sided conversations, but
like
the radio,
like cold reading nobody.
Yes. Yeah, you're cold reading radio stations.
Right.
All of them.
Right. Yeah.
Like all of them. And in the Philly area, I'm in Philadelphia. So we have tons of radio stations. Yeah. Tons of all different. I mean, you can get anything you want out here. And it's just ridiculous when I almost feel bad when I see a group of people sitting in the dark talking to a radio and they think that they're talking to somebody from the afterlife. I honestly feel sorry for them because I guess they need it so bad that they're willing to just ignore logic.
You identify on some level. You were chasing that dream or that interest. So it's not necessarily that toxic. But I do got to ask you, okay, so somewhere behind you, I'm guessing there is something having to do with the black hole from Disney. And I loved that movie growing up. And, you know, it's like black holes, portals, space. Oh, it's so cool. And then later in life, I find out about Hawking radiation and that everything that goes into a black hole comes out the exact same amount as Hawking radiation. And nothing is converted. It's basically just broken down into its smallest parts of nothing, and there's nothing there. There is no white hole on the other side of a black hole. It's very disappointing. Did you find a moment when you switched where you're just all like, I don't know, disillusioned?
I don't think so.
Like kind of lost something you loved, and you're all like, I mean,
no.
Are you that person? Are you that person now who quits smoking and feels the need to tell everybody else to quit smoking because you're so much better now? I guess it's the question.
No. Because I think I just swapped out an interest. It went from believing and looking, doing these ghost hunts where I was looking for ghosts because I was already convinced. I was convinced that the place we were going was haunted. There were ghosts there. No doubt about it. That was it. So I was going in there and every shadow, every little noise, creak of the floorboards, that was a ghost. So I swapped that out with the mystery, you know, now solving the mystery, the Scooby-Doo effect. That's what I call it. Solving the mystery is what gives me that thrill. You know, whether the end result, which it hasn't yet, but if the end result happens to be a ghost, awesome. You know, because that's a breakthrough. That's paradigm shifting right there.
No, totally.
But solving a mystery, like figuring out what was causing this activity or what was how this photograph was created, to me, that's awesome. That's a great feeling. That's better than when I thought I had an EVP or a ghost photo. I get more of a high from it.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I mean, this side of the story at least yields results. You know, the other was a constant search for nothing. You know, now every once in a while you're all, oh, well, it was obviously Curly from the Globetrotters dressed up as the monster, and we're fine. You know, there's like an answer to the thing, and I get that, and I do like that. For me, a lot of this stuff is I like to go on the imagination roller coaster. And they tell me their story, and sometimes it's wacky, and sometimes by the end of the story, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe, you know, I'm always on board with maybe, you know, but but when it comes to going on investigations, like, how are you doing this? Do you have people that actually invite you, say, hey, we need a skeptic, come with us? Or do you choose your topics? You know, how do you choose your topics that you're going to go after with the microscope?
So if it's for my column or one of my videos, then I pick it. It's what interests me. Or with the column, it's a little bit of both. Sometimes Barry Carr, that's the director, he'll send me an email hint like, hey, have you seen this?
Right.
And that translates into, hey, write something about this.
Right. That translates into, hey, we've been following Google Trends and we need something on this topic.
So, and I don't mind that. And then other times it's when I meet somebody at a conference. my recent article was about somebody like that I met at a conference that made very, very extraordinary claims about a murdered person, a murdered young guy, and that he had helped with the investigation and all that. And that piqued my interest because, I mean, that's a special place. That's usually when I get close to that line of crossing where I don't be nice. Because when you're dealing with missing persons or someone that was murdered, you also deal with the family that is still suffering,
hurting these
yes.
people. Yeah.
So when you're trying to take credit for something that has to do with one of these cases, I feel that you're exploiting it. So that I'll always take some case like that. I'll always, if that comes across my desk or my scrolling feed, I'll look into that. When it comes to like ghost hunts, I usually, if someone reaches out to me because they're having issues at their house or something, I'll talk to them. We'll do a phone call, we'll do a Skype interview or something like that. And if need be, I'll come out and check it out, which doesn't happen often. Usually from the details, I can go through and say, all right, why don't you try this and this and this and get back to me? And that usually is enough because they figure it out for themselves. And that's the best. That is seriously the best. When they can do it and solve the mystery themselves, oh, that's solid. That's solid in their head.
Right.
But I also do get ghost hunting teams that do invite me out. And they do want the skeptic. They do want somebody that will chime in, that will speak up when, like they don't know what's going on. Oh, what could this be? And they turn in and say, hey, Kenny, what is this? And I'm like, well, it's dust. Yeah. It's something like that. I mean, that's not always the case. I don't know everything and I don't never claim to, but most of the time, yes, I can offer explanations for it and recreate the events. So, it seems like they appreciate it because they keep inviting me back. So I think they appreciate it. And I think it helps them. It helps me because I get to collect data. I get to understand where they're coming from. And then they get to learn something new, a new trick, or to think outside the box.
Sure.
And I really think that's what they need to do. I think most of the paranormal people.
Yeah, there's no point in doing it if you're not going to do that. If you're not going to, again, this is sort of referring to the magic being gone of when one was believing, but Kara and I have thought about going to like a haunted place and be all, we should go there and we should go check it out. And I think Kara's actually done it at least one time that I know of. And
yeah, I mean, sort of. It's a road that was supposedly haunted near. There are not a lot of haunted places near Reading where I used to live, so I went out there just to, check it out. Didn't see anything, but
Let me ask you this, Kara, because this is where I'm going with this. How long did you spend out there?
Oh, like an hour, not that long.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Every time we talk about doing some sort of investigation, I think of it
kind of rigor. I just wanted to, see it.
See it, yeah.
As a skeptic, I kind of look at it like, oh man, this is going to be mind-numbingly boring if I'm going to sit in this house for 8 hours. Do you kind of dread it now? Or is the data enough to create that magic again that makes you want to stay up all night in a house for 8 hours?
It's, what, it most of the time it is still fun for me. And yes, the data is good because I have my own forms that I bring. I have a clipboard with forms in it and I fill it out during the course of the night. What people are doing, what they're using, like equipment wise, how they're using it. Are they using it correctly? Sometimes I'll engage with them. And especially one of the things I love doing is going as incognito as I can. So I'll sign up online and I won't tell anyone I'm going and I'll just show up. And it's good. If I don't know the people organizing it, it's good. If I do, I usually get an email or a call within minutes. Like, what are you doing? Why'd you sign up for my event? And that's literally happened like within 5 minutes that I get a call. What are you doing? What are you up to?
We know what you're doing.
And even in those cases, I'm like, look, I just want to come and observe. That's it. I'm literally going to sit in a corner and watch everyone. That's what I'm going to do. And I find it fun. Once in a while, the organizers will get questions from participants. And it's fun because when they ask really difficult questions, you see the host might like look at me like, hey, and I'm like, nope, I told you, I'm just sitting here.
Shouldn't have called me 5 minutes later or I'd have helped out,
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they ask me a question directly, yeah, I'm not going to lie to them. I'll tell them what I think. If they ask who I am, I'll tell them who I am. I don't try to hide that, except that I just don't offer it right away. And the data is really good. I mean, what I get out of that helps me understand them better. And that's the point. When my writings, all the work I do is mostly against what they do. We kind of butt heads, but we do it in a nice way. So if I can understand their way of thinking, I can do a better job at my job. And that's why I keep going.
It probably makes you nicer if you know them.
Yes. Yeah. So I know where they're coming from. And again, like I started out as a ghost hunter, so I have that perspective, and I can still get their perspective because I keep up on what they're doing. I keep following. All right, this is the train of thought. This is how they think it. This is why they think it. This is what they're doing. Where'd they get this idea? Mostly from TV, which is horrible, but that's what they do, and I mean, if I can find that out and establish, okay, you got this information from TV, what TV show? And then I can go watch that.
It's always Ghost Hunters.
Oh, my. Ghost Hunters. Luckily they stopped. Now it's like Ghost Adventures, which I can't stand them. I really can't stand them. Most of the TV shows I cannot stand. But I watch them. I watch them when I have to. Usually if I have to write a review, or if they're at a location, or use a new piece of equipment. So I watch the episode so I can get an understanding of, okay, this is where they got the idea. Again, it all comes back to research, and understanding. So
yeah. So I've kind of
go ahead, Kara.
I've kind of an open-ended question. In your investigations, have you ever found anything surprising? Not paranormal, but like, I can't believe that this noise was this. Do you have any weird stories like that?
Oh, so, like there's a cat under the house or something? Or...
something really strange.
One of my favorite investigations was actually like years in the making. It was a place called Whispers Estate, and I believe it's in Indiana. I think.
I've never heard of it.
But it was kind of a famous place because, as its namesake, there were whispers. People would hear whispers. They didn't need recorders. They would just hear it. And the story was that there was a young girl way back that during Christmas season, they had real candles on the Christmas tree, caught fire, and the girl died because of the fire. So you hear her singing nursery rhymes. So I've been wanting to go there for a long time. Finally had the opportunity. It had changed hands recently. So there was a new owner. Since the new owner took over, the whispering had stopped. So I was like, all right, already that's a red flag to me. Something's wrong. Because it doesn't, I usually hear things like trickle away, kind of gently fade away, but not stop immediately. So let me go see. I'm still staying open-minded. Let's see what happens. We get there. Some of the people that I was with had been there before, had heard the whispers. So we're talking, getting an idea, and they keep saying it came from like the entranceway. So right inside the front door, there's stairs. It goes into the main sitting room. I see a vent on the floor, like an air vent. So I look down it, goes right to the crawl space underneath the house. It's not connected to vents. So then I see that the staircase is enclosed and there's a panel, an access panel, but it's new. It doesn't match the woodwork. So I'm like, something's weird here. So I left. I came back, and the other ghost hunters had actually taken the panel off. And we found out that there was a shaft going down to the crawl space. So naturally I wanted to go down there. Went down to the basement, climbed up. It was like, there was maybe like 3 feet of the crawl space. So I literally crawled over to the opening, this chute. I stood up and I started talking, and there was an echo because it's a metal chute. And the ghost hunters were like, holy crap, that's exactly what this whisper sounds like. This echo this metallic echo. That's exactly what it sounded like. I'm like, oh, all right. So now I'm getting an idea, like whatever voices were here came from right here. Okay. So I started walking or crawling around. I kick something, knock it over. One of the support beams has a speaker next to it.
Oh, really?
A stereo speaker.
Oh.
Yes. Look at you're like, whoa, wait a minute. So there's a speaker next to this pillar, and I pick it up. And I'm like, all right, this is not just thrown here. This was placed here because the wiring is laid out perfectly going back to the basement. I go back to the
Scooby-Doo stuff.
Basement area. There is a bunch of old CD equipment. I found out that the previous owner, his brother, repaired CD players and radios and stuff like that in that basement. So there was a bunch of stuff still there. And I found the other speaker that matched the one that was in the basement. So I couldn't prove it 100%, but the placement of the speaker right underneath the air vent and chute, perfect. And that it all stopped as soon as the new owner took over. For me, that was enough. Like until I get more information that says otherwise, but I'm convinced. Yeah. I'm satisfied that that's solved.
Well, here's a question that raises for me.
Old Man Withers was the ghost, you know?
It was, yeah. It was Jonathan Winters.
I've never watched Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I've watched a lot. The question that this raises for me, though, is the old owners where they moved to now, is that place now haunted? That's what I want to know. No. So they're not continuing their trick someplace else.
Well, the place, again, it's called Whispers Estate, and it was used more as I think the previous owner wanted to make it a bed and breakfast, but it cost a lot of money. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's like a really small town where nothing's going on. So it was like a pet project, but he rented it out to ghost hunters on the weekends because it got this reputation. And so every weekend was booked. And then one of the ghost hunters was the new owner because he became so, enthralled.
Oh, that poor guy.
That fascinated. Yes. He was pretty upset. And it's changed. It changed hands, I think, twice because this next owner I met at a conference a couple years later, and I introduced myself, and that's about it. And then they stopped me in the lobby because they checked me out and found out that I had written an article about it, and they were mad, like screaming at me mad. They wanted me to take the article down. They wanted me to take my pictures down. I basically told them a few things to basically no,
because it was sabotaging their money.
Yes, because they were selling it. They were selling it to ghost hunters. Yes, they were all about that. They wanted me to take everything down, and I told them.
So their argument was take this down because I don't like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said no.
See how that wouldn't be very effective.
Yeah, it's not going to happen because that's my experiences. You can do whatever you want. It's not going to work.
I too am making money off of your stupid ghost house.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't make any money off of it. I mean, that was all. But the new owners have reached out to me. They reached out to me, I think last year, right before the pandemic. They reached out and said they were redoing it and that they had read my article and they invited me to come out and take a second look because they were convinced the place was haunted aside from the whispers, and they wanted me to come out and try it out again. So I haven't been able to get out there. It's too far of a ride for me. But one of these days, if I can, I'd like to go out and revisit. I mean, I'm not above, revisiting and giving them a second shot.
Of course. And if I were those people, a smart thing would be to convert what you found into part of the tour and everything, because hell, that's some provable creepy crap right there. You know, exactly. That's like creepy. That's like, your Airbnb having cameras in the walls and stuff. That's some creepy stuff, I mean, include that in it and be all, oh, well, back in this year, there were these people who lived here who did this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, make it part of the story, sell it, it'll fit.
I agree.
So how about the flip side of that? I assume you've done enough of this to the point where I can huck you some topics and you can. We haven't planned this ahead, audience. So
I have no idea what you're going to ask me.
Is there any ghost evidence that you find to be maybe not real, but legit evidence? You know, like some quality, like, okay, man, all this stuff is fake, but this one's actually pretty interesting. Still, it's not converted me, but it's good. You know, is there any good evidence?
So, I mean, if you're going to talk good evidence, then you really have to get into more of the more scientific side of it. Go into like parapsychology, which I'm not well versed in.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts that I do, my co-host Dave Schumacher is so well versed in it. I mean, he's a academic study whore, if you will. Any paper that you need on scientific papers, he's got it. So I constantly go back and forth with him. He would probably argue, yes, there is some good data out there. It's not great, but it's good. For me, though, I have not seen, and I'm trying to think. That's why I'm like looking up, all around. But as far as like photographs and videos and audio recordings, I think they're all crap. And I'm still willing to look at them, but I think overall they're crap because they are not taken or obtained under controlled conditions. It's completely random. There is no methodology to it. It's basically like, I sent a camera up in the hallway and I walked away. I came back like 6 hours later and, we got a strange light on it. Okay, great. You got a strange light on it. That's exactly what it is. A strange light.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's a ghost. Doesn't mean it's anything. It's just a light. But is there anything good? I honestly can't come up with something. I'm trying to think, but no, no, there really isn't. Well,
that explains why you're on this side now.
Yeah. I mean, I keep looking. Yeah. I really do. I keep looking. And I attend these events. I go out to ghost hunts, and I also like UFO and Bigfoot hunts. I go to all of them looking, like here, wow me, impress me. Let me see something good. But so far, no.
I guess a follow-up question to that would be then, why do you think people are taken in by this stuff? Because, we've talked to a lot of people who seem like very bright people, and it's like, we've talked to some seemingly smart people who like use the ghost box, and it's like, okay, hold on, if it's just a radio, how could you not know that, right? Like,
I think it's a different kind of smarts, and
right.
I mean, I'm just going off of my own.
Yeah, I realize you can't see into someone's head, right?
Wish I could. That'd be maybe not. That might be dangerous, But I think you can have different smart people. I mean, I've met people that were, like PhDs and this, and they were complete idiots. And I've met people with, barely a high school diploma, and the smartest people I've ever met. And it's just a difference between street smarts, academic smarts, book smarts, research. I mean, I was horrible in high school. I was absolutely horrible. But now I write for a science magazine. So, they're definitely different kind of smarts. And I think beliefs can really affect us. And if we're not aware of our own beliefs, if we're not aware of our own biases, that's a big thing. If we're not aware of our own biases, then it's easy to be duped or fooled by somebody or something. When you hear stories from someone that you trust, we tend to believe them more. They hold more weight. So if I've known, say, Kara, if I've known you for 30 years and I just met Chauncey, if you told me something, Kara, I would believe you. If you told me to go, you saw a ghost, I might believe you more. If he told me he saw a ghost, I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know this guy. Who the hell is he? What's going on?
Absolutely.
When it comes to that situation, I don't believe either one of you. And I'm not trying to be mean. Like, even if my own mother came to me and said, I saw a ghost, You're like,
You need
okay,
the evidence.
all right,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me hear the
Somebody's
story.
going to live in a home.
show me a data.
Somebody's
Yeah.
going to be living in a home soon, Mom. You might want to retract that story.
Like you're going in the funny farm. That's where you're going.
Oh no.
But I would hear out the story and I would still ask
Sure.
questions. And like, okay, you saw a ghost. What they look like, what were they wearing? Don't tell me period clothing, just, all right. What kind of period clothing?
Right.
What do they have on? Is pants or dress? Is it upper class, lower class? What are we talking? Rich, poor, in between, summertime, wintertime? What are they wearing? I need details. So it's not a I think when it comes down to why people believe, there's a lot of reasons. There really is. Whether it's beliefs they grew up with and just hard to let go, whether it's biases, whether it's if an experience happened to them and they think they saw something and they're confident in themselves, then it doesn't matter what anyone else says or what the real answer is.
Right.
You come back to that I know what I saw thing. And once you get that, it's very hard to to undo it, to convince them otherwise. And sometimes
I think a lot of it might be wishful thinking as well. Again, to reference your background, you got your Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man there. And I've noticed when I interview ghost hunters, they are constantly using terms that came from that movie. Terms that were not in common use prior to that
definitely
movie.
heard like full body apparition.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
okay,
I mean, they'll be all, and they're standing there was a full body, full torso apparition. And I'm all like, I've heard this before.
I feel like we've heard at least two people use that term.
Yeah.
Like,
they're just, we're sitting there reading Tobin's Spirit Guide. And you're all like, okay, now, you guys obviously, you guys have, and I point that out because the wishful thinking, it's, I don't want to get insulting, but like being indoctrinated into a religion that you grew up in. It just sort of becomes a part of what you want to be. And then they chase it and they want it to be, they're chasing the high, I'm a horror movie fan. I watched 99 crappy horror movies before I watched that one that gives me the high that I'm chasing. That I watch it and I go, oh, that made my imagination go crazy. So I kind of feel like a lot of people are just chasing the high of nostalgia.
Yeah. They are the supernatural weekend warriors.
Right.
Because they go out on Saturday or Friday night or Saturday night, and that's what they do. They go to a haunted place. And
we're going to find out hauntings only happen on Tuesdays. And we're going to be, well, this is why we never got the proof. It only happens on Tuesdays.
Yeah. So, I think that they're in it for the thrill to chase and to spook themselves, to scare themselves. Because you're putting yourself into an environment that takes away some of your senses, that gets you on edge. Your anxiety level is high from excitement or fear. And it's that addiction to that high.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's been plenty of ghost hunts I've been on where it's approaching midnight and I've collected my data and I'm sitting in the corner going, waking up.
But it's almost the witching hour.
Whatever. Depending on what time zone you're in.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it. There definitely is a thrill. And I get the thrill, again, like I said, I get it from solving the mystery, from getting those little clues. It's like, all right, why is this happening? Why are people hearing this noise? Or why are they getting this EMF reading that's, off the charts? What's causing it? Let's find out. Let's explore this a little bit more. And that's the type of investigation I do. I'm not going to sit there for 4 hours and, all right, 20 minutes from now, we're going to move to a different room. 20 minutes from now, we're going to move to a different room. No, if something happened here, if there's a claim that somebody else before us came here and said, this happened here, I want to explore that. I want to investigate that, because if you're just going to a house because you heard it's haunted, what are you doing? You're the weekend warrior. You're just going for the thrill.
Yeah, probably I'm drinking beer and
yes,
hanging out,
I'm going if there's a claim. And that's the first thing I ask. Like, all right, what claims are there?
Mhm.
If you want me to come out there, what claims are there? And I'm going to see if there's testable claims, because that's important. If you just say, like, you randomly see a shadow somewhere in the house, it changes all the time, it changes the time of day, then I can't really do much for you.
Mhm.
But if you tell me that every morning at 3 a.m. you hear ghostly footsteps come down your stairs,
Mhm.
every morning, that's testable. I can
Right.
be there at 2:30, set up my stuff, my video, my audio, and I can sit at the bottom of the stairs and wait for this to happen. So it's testable. I can be there for the event. We can see what happens. But otherwise, there's no reason for me to be there.
Right. So
So-
outside of ghosts,
UFOs are having a bit of a moment right now.
Yeah, is there anything that you find to be like, okay, maybe, the one that comes to mind for me is doctors pull in chunks of metal out of people who say they were abducted. I'm all like, how'd that chunk of metal get in there? Nobody just has a chunk of metal in them. Somebody put that metal in.
I know I've had chunks of metal in me, and I've
Well,
worked.
me too, but I always remember how they got in there.
Well, that's the thing. That's the trick there, because
Right.
you are most likely honest about
And it hurts.
Yes, it hurts. You want it out. But I've worked on cars. I've worked on aircraft, lots of machinery. And sometimes you get a little, like a splinter of metal that goes inside and it stays in there.
Mhm.
You can't get it out. And it's like, all right, it doesn't hurt anymore. I'll just leave it there. Whatever.
Sure. Yeah. But if a
So-
doctor pulled it out of me 10 years later, I'd be, I remember when that metal went in because it freaking hurt.
Yes. But again, it might come back to, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, but some people are not honest, and they might have something happen like that, some kind of accident. They might have been in a car accident. They might have whatever. And they had a piece of metal. They knew it was in there, and they don't say anything because
Right.
they have this.
Or they're
belief.
mentally ill. There's a lot of mentally ill
Could
people
be,
out there.
could
I'm
be.
not trying to put that on everybody either,
Um,
but I mean, that's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
But
mental
also, I
illness
mean,
is quite common.
if we're diving into possibilities, and that's what these are, we're just speculating here.
exactly.
If someone was in a car accident, yes, I could see someone having a piece of metal in them, a small, tiny piece of metal, and not knowing.
Yeah, that's true.
If your major injury was to the chest area, or like a broken leg or a head injury, you might have gotten a
if
piece
you
of
were
metal somewhere
unconscious,
else. Yes, and nobody checked it, or it was minor compared to what everything else was. They fixed you all up, left a little piece in there, and then years later, when you have scar tissue grown over it, and something happens where you notice it, and you start rubbing it, you start scratching it, it becomes irritated because now you dislodged it or something like that. And now it's like, all right, what is this? You go to the doctor, they take it out. I don't know how it got there. They're not lying. They're being completely honest, but it's just a freak accident.
Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Well-
Is it alien
well,
technology?
Kenny, now that you ruined my mystery,
You're welcome.
what I want to know is, do you have a mystery? Is there one? Is there a grail? Is there a thing that you're just all, this is pretty convincing and I want to debunk it because I find it convincing? Is there one that you're just like, oh, that's the one that I need to know the answer to because it might be true?
Yeah, the white whale of the paranormal.
The white
Yes.
whale chasing. Wow.
What is your heart of darkness? Come on.
I don't.
It sounds
know.
like maybe not, but
Yeah, I don't know if I have one. I mean, there's plenty of mysteries. I don't think there are mysteries that I really have that I need to solve.
right.
They come along. There's plenty out there, but there also have been plenty, like the Bluff Creek Bigfoot sighting, the original Patterson Gimlin film. There's the Roswell crash landing.
Yeah.
There's
Anything
the Brown
with
Lady.
the government is probably
Yes.
pretty exciting like that. Yeah.
Brown Lady of
Yeah.
Raymond Hall. the Tulip Staircase ghost. These are old, classic kind of things. Loch Ness, but a lot of these have been solved. Nessie has been solved. The famous photographs have been thoroughly explained. For at least Loch Ness, the Brown Lady, pretty sure I know how that's done. Other people, I think Joe Nickel has tackled that. There's not much left that's like this great thing where I'm like, I've been chasing it for years. There's a non-paranormal mystery that I have been chasing for years.
Oh.
And I can share that with you. So I'm a huge fan of Harry Houdini. Huge fan because, obviously the work that he did
very similar
kind of falls in.
Right.
So I follow in his footsteps a lot with that kind of stuff. But he had a chief investigator. He had plenty of investigators, mostly female, that worked for him that would go ahead of his tour dates about 10 days to 2 weeks ahead of his tour dates. And they would go in disguise and visit the local psychics. And they would sit down with the psychics or mediums and learn their tricks. So all of these investigators were trained by Houdini to what to look for. So they would go in, find out what was going on, take notes, report back to Houdini, who, when he would start his show in that town, would do all of the psychic medium tricks.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I loved it. I love it. So his chief investigator was Rose Mackenberg.
Amazing.
Rose Mackenberg was amazing. She was more famous, the most famous investigator he had. There was articles written about her. I think she wrote daily articles herself after Houdini passed away, just explaining some of the things that she did and showcasing some of the disguises that she did. When she passed away, I did find out that she passed away in a hospital. She was suffering from some illnesses. I don't really want to get into the personal details, but
Sure.
She passed away, and I don't know where she's buried. So I've been looking for several years. It took me 2 years to get a copy of her death certificate from the state of New York. And I got that. And unfortunately, they have the cemetery where they planned on burying her, and then they crossed it out and wrote a different cemetery, which does not exist, and has never existed. So this has been 4 years that I've been looking for her. And the reason is because many of us, me, Joe Nickel, especially Joe Nickel, because I've talked to him several times, and we want to go and visit the grave and pay our respects because this woman, I've learned a couple things from her, and I'd really like to just go visit the grave.
Yeah, she's a titan of the industry.
Yes,
so to put it.
yes,
Yeah.
she is someone I look up to. You know, she is one of my mentors. Even though she passed away long before I was born, but I just cannot find her. I found her parents, so I know where her parents were buried, but there is no record anywhere of her. And she didn't have any children, and then her actual her family line kind of died out. So there's no one I can ask. Hey, do you know where your great aunt is? There's no one. So I'm kind of stuck.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
and
interesting.
I did call the original cemetery and talk to the director there. I talked to the funeral home director, the funeral home that handled her service. I talked to the current director, and they're all very nice people. They all helped me try to understand what was going on. But it looks like I'm going to have to go to, there's 2 cemeteries that closely match what I'm looking for. And it's going to be a matter of driving 2 hours and just footwork. I'm just going to have to go aisle by aisle and look at every tombstone until I find her. So that's my great mystery. That is my white whale.
It's a great mystery. It's a great mystery. I love it.
I'll be doing that for the next year or so, you know, just looking, taking trips up there when I can.
Well, we don't have too much more time here, but I do have a personal question that I want to ask you.
Hit me.
You said that when you and your wife got married or moved in together, you bought the world's oldest computer that was new at the time, which implies to me that you guys have been together for a very long time. Can I ask how long you've been married?
We got married in 97.
That is a long time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I assume that she had the same interests that you did. with ghost hunting
No.
and stuff like that. No.
No. I mean, she came out with me, and I think it's more because I am very OCD with my hobbies, and like you can find me up here in my office, pretty much like 2 or 3 hours a night, easy.
Totally.
Plus,
I work here. I live here.
There you go.
This is my room. Yeah.
This is it. We have a 3-bedroom home, and one bedroom is my office. So I'm constantly up here doing podcasts or other stuff. So I think it was more or less she came with me on ghost hunts because I was going to go out and do them, and I spend so much time up here anyway. So it was more or less to spend time with me. And I get it.
That's funny. My question was going to be, how did she take it when you changed? And did it take her a while? And did you guys change together? So, but I guess that changes my question is, when you changed, did she go, "Oh, thank God"?
No, because I'm still obsessed with my hobbies. I still do it. But it's more fun. This has opened up a lot more opportunity. Like I said I mentioned in the beginning, I've been able to do some conferences for SciCon, which is Vegas, and it's nice because we never went to Vegas before, and the first time we did it was 5 years ago, I think, for the first conference they were holding in Vegas. And the reason we went was because James Randi was the guest of honor. And I had never met him in person. I really wanted to. I have all of his books and I wanted to get autographs. And to be honest, it was like, I don't know how much longer he's going to be with us because he was really getting up there. So we scraped and saved and flew out there. We had a great time. And then the next 3 years, I was invited back.
Great.
So that was all expense paid, which is nice.
And I'm sure your wife was just all like, "Vegas is nice, but can we go back to that crawl space?"
No, I think she preferred the nice hotel room.
Mine would too.
Yeah. Casino. She loves to gamble, so she was totally about the gambling, and we had fun because we also got to visit Area 51. We went there. Nice. We drove to California. We met up with some friends of ours, which I had never been to California before. So that was one of my bucket list things, to see the Pacific Ocean. And I got to not only see it, but I ran into it, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool. All right. So we're at the end here. Where should we send people to? Skeptical Inquirer, that's where your column is, right? But where should we send people to find out more about you, who want to follow you, who want to know more about what you're doing?
So I'm all over the place. So yeah, you can go to skepticalinquirer.org and you can look up A Closer Look, or my name, Kenny Biddle. My articles will pop up. On Facebook, you can find me at I Am Kenny Biddle. That's my blog page, where I do a lot of stuff. On YouTube, you can find me at Kenny Biddle. You just put in my name and my channel pops up. I'm on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff too, but those are my main places that I post: Skeptical Inquirer, YouTube, and Facebook. So my YouTube channel. And I also do every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, I do the Skeptical Help Bar, which is a 2-hour live stream Q&A where you can come on and ask me any kind of paranormal questions. And we drink and we talk paranormal stuff. So it's fun. And then Saturday nights at 8 p.m., I also do another show called 3 Tortured Souls. And it's basically the same, but with 2 other guys, Dave Schumacher and Tim Vickers. And we pick a topic every week and we analyze it, and we really get in, we do a deep dive and look at it, but we're not mean. Again, we discuss it and we discuss possibilities and stuff like that. We've come up with some great stuff. We actually did an experiment based on one of our shows about weeping statues and like the history of weeping statues and bleeding statues. And we challenged ourselves to make them. Oh. And I did. I actually turned this Precious Moment statue into a weeping statue. You can see the glossiness. Right. But for a week straight, this thing actually cried olive oil. I love your face, Karen.
It's creepy and terrifying to begin with.
You can actually see. I think you can see it's shiny down there.
Yeah,
right there. It's still leaking.
Amazing.
But yeah, that took 2 weeks to actually make it happen, and then it was fascinating when it did.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I also got to throw in that Vickers, Biddle, and Schumacher sounds like a awesome 60s jazz trio if ever you guys need to go somewhere else.
I'll keep that in mind if we get bored.
Sounds like the backup band for Duke Ellington or something. Nice. All right. Well, you've been listening to Radio Wasteland. Our guest has been Kenny Biddle. This has been a lot of fun, totally interesting, enlightening, and, kind of, something that I hope our audience likes because, Kara and I, we have no hiding that we're skeptical. But we like to hear the stories, and there's two sides to it, obviously. So, find out more about Kenny Biddle and get more of the skeptical side.
There you go.
And thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Anytime. This is fun.